What's going on, guys? On today's episode, I'm going to show you how to do a rear differential service on a 2013 to 2019 Ford Escape. Alright guys, before we get started, there's a couple things I want to go over here as far as the tools that I'm using and the procedure that I'm going to use. So first of which, Ford considers this fluid a lifetime fluid in the rear differential of one of these Escapes. So there is no drain plug, and it's not very accessible even for the fill plug. I'd be willing to bet if you look this up in Ford's service procedures on how to actually change this oil, they would tell you to drop the entirety of the rear suspension and pull the differential out and do it that way. The way I'm going to show you, you won't have to do any of that, but there are some specialty tools that some of you may or may not have. So first of which is this. This is a serpentine belt tool, and the reason I'm using this is, as you can see, it is much lower profile than a standard ratchet. You know, even a snap-on, this is kind of my go-to, the one I use all the time, and it's probably a third the thickness of the snap-on ratchet. So this is the only thing you're going to be able to get in there, something or something like it, to get this fill plug removed. Now, once you get the fill plug removed, I'm then going to suck the old fluid out using some sort of fluid extractor. Now, in this case, I'm going to use a brake bleeder, and yes, this brake bleeder will remove gear oil. It draws enough suction that it will pull it out, but you have to have compressed air to use it. So if you guys don't have compressed air, you're going to have to look for an alternative way to try and get that fluid out of there. Once I have, you know, the old fluid out, I'm going to use one of these pumps off of Amazon to fill it back up, and it's only going to take about a quart of fluid. According to Ford specification, it takes like 1.1 quarts or something like that. But I don't care what way you do it. No matter how you suck it out of there, you're not going to get 100% of that fluid out. I used, it was actually right around a quart, just under a quart to fill this thing up. So I'll link all this stuff in the description for you guys if you guys want to check any of this stuff out. But with that, we're going to go underneath the car and get started. So to get at the rear differential, the first thing we have to do is remove 4 10mm bolts that hold this skid plate on. Alright, so looking underneath the bottom of the differential here, you have your rear cross member. This is the back cover. Now in the back cover, there is a plug back in the back here. This is going to be the fill plug. If you don't have anything to get in here, you may be able to suck it out the fill hole, but there is a magnet on this plug that you probably want to clean off. So if you can get this out, try and remove it, because like I said, there's a magnet on there. It's going to have metal shavings on it. You want to clean it off to actually, you know, service the differential. So what I'm using to get in here, like I told you in the beginning, I'm using a serpentine belt tool. That is for sure thin enough to fit where I need it to go, but the length of it is probably going to screw some of you guys, because I'm sure 98% of you are working on the floor doing this, and this tool is going to be so long that it's probably going to hit the floor. So you may have to cut this down, or, you know, get creative or find a low profile ratchet, but you want to get in here and remove this plug. And luckily there is just enough room that you can grab the next flat on this cover, because the cover is a 3/8 hex drive, just like a standard 3/8 ratchet. If you back the plug out too far, you will get the tool stuck. So just be aware. Not sure how well you guys can see that, but there is some metal on there. It's not bad. It's obviously, you know, in pretty good shape. There's no big chunks on there. If you got big chunks on there, you need a differential. Use some brake cleaner or something. Brake cleaner and a rag. Get all the metal rinsed off the magnet. All right, so now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get my suction tool and just get the suction line started into the hole. And it's actually easier if you come over the top of a cross member. Get that thing down in the sump. And now we wait. All right, so after about 5 minutes, this thing stops sucking oil. So I'm gonna get it disconnected. We're gonna go through and start filling, but the oil that came out of here really wasn't all that dirty. This Escape has about 72,000 miles on it, and at this point, I probably could have went another 25,000. So probably at 100, it probably would be due to be changed. But the way the fluid looked coming out of there really didn't look all that bad. It still actually looked, you know, amber color. But I know this vehicle in particular spends literally like 98% of the time on the highway. Like it's literally a 2-minute drive from my house to the highway, and it's my girlfriend's car. She commutes an hour to and from work every day, so it gets a ton of miles put on it. But if you're doing all highway, I would wait till 100,000 to do this, because even at 72, the fluid was still amber, and I'll show you guys in a minute. But as far as filling this back up, so I'm just using regular conventional Valvoline. There's not a lot of heat back here. It's not like the power transfer unit up front where it's shrouded by the exhaust and catalytic converters and the turbo sitting right here. And there's the tailpipe's at least 6 to 8 inches away from the differential. There's not a lot of radiant heat affecting the differential, so you can go ahead and put conventional fluid in here. Ford specifies 80-90 gear oil, so that's what I'm going to put back in it. To do it, like I showed you guys in the beginning of the video, I'm just going to use one of these little pumps, thread it into the top of the gear oil, and sit there and go to town. So I'm going to get this thing filled back up. When I fill it up, I'm going to try and get it level with the bottom of that plug we removed to suck all the fluid out. I used a zip tie kind of as a dipstick to try and gauge where the fluid level was, and it was more or less right at the bottom of the threads on this plug on the back of the differential cover. So I don't think there's any need to remove any other plugs on this. I may be wrong, but this is the way I'm doing it. But yeah, Ford doesn't really have a procedure for this, so I don't really know how you can screw it up by changing it. All right, so in an attempt to fill this thing, I actually took the silicone hose off of the fluid extractor that I used to suck the fluid out, and I put it on the fill pump. The factory tube that they give you with this fill pump is super rigid, and it won't make the 90-degree corner to actually go in the differential. So I'm going to do the same deal with this, route it up over the top, and then push it inside the differential and start filling. Well, that's the end of one quart. All right, so when you put the bolt back in, where is the bolt? So when you put the bolt back in, you want to put some Teflon tape on the threads so the threads are all sealed up. And then you're gonna have to try and get your hands in here, and I usually put it in between my fingers like this and just kind of rotate your fingers and get it started that way. But let me get some Teflon tape on this, and let me get it started back up in the hole. I'm trying to think how long it would take you if you did this on the ground. I gotta say 2 to 3 hours. I know that sounds insane to some of you, but I'm the type of person that I would have to walk away from this if I was doing this on the ground. I'd have to walk away for like a half hour and then come back to it, just because it's so irritating. It would have literally been almost zero effort at all on Ford's part to put some sort of drain on this thing, but they chose the easy way out and didn't do it. So because we bought one of these, you and I, the people that own these, have to live with it. So thanks, Ford. Thanks for doing us a solid. In all reality, I'm probably not going to change this on this car probably ever again. Not because I'm going to neglect it, but the car's got 70,000 miles on it. I'm not going to touch this for at least another 100. So the chances of this under my ownership or my care making it to 170,000 miles, maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. But in any case, I'm not going to have to deal with it anytime soon. The power transfer unit that I already shot a video on, I'll put a link up in the corner, is going to be far more critical than what this thing is, because of the amount of heat and the low amount of fluid, the amount of heat in that area. So I would change that at least 3 or 4 times before I even considered changing this. The serpentine belt tool is probably going to be the way to go. There's just enough swing room that you can grab it one flat at a time. It's insane that I would have to do this to put a fill plug in, but that's the reality of this job. So. All right. Now I got to brake clean everything down because everything's thoroughly coated in oil. As you guys can see, there's oil up here, there's oil back here. This is all going to drip all over my driveway. So I'm going to clean that up, get the skid plate on, and take this thing for a test ride real quick. Make sure it doesn't make any noise. All right, guys, that's what I have for this video. I'll have links in the description to the tools that I used, the oil that I used, and all that stuff. I'll put that stuff down there for you. But as always, guys, if you guys like the video, hit like. If you want to see more content, go down and hit subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys.